Today we will discuss Fabian's 1983 book, Time and the Other: How Anthropology Makes Its Objects. Fabian begins his texts by stating that knowledge is power. His work seeks to understand the uses of time anthropology, the study of human cultures, makes when it strives to constitute its object of study. The savage, the primitive, the other. There is no knowledge of the other which is not also a temporal, historical, and political act. This takes us back to Saldaña's guidelines for studying the history of knowledge when he insists that we cannot forget the relationship between science and power. Fabian is interested in the oppressive uses of time. He believes that time is used to distance the ones that are being observed from the time of the observer. In order to understand the oppressive uses of time, Fabian describes different paradigms of time. He distinguishes two categories of time: pre-modern time, or the paradigm of salvation, and modern time, or the paradigm of natural sciences. Enlightenment thought marks a break with an essentially medieval Christian conception of time and space. That break was from a conception of time in terms of a history of salvation to one that ultimately resulted in the secularization of time as natural history. In the medieval paradigm described in Figure 1.1, page 27, the time of salvation was conceived as inclusive or incorporative. The others, pagans and infidels, rather than savages and primitives, were viewed as candidates for salvation. The figure shows a series of concentric circles of proximity to the center of the Christian world, the cities of Rome and Jerusalem. The outer layer is the pagan world, which can and should be incorporated to the Christian world. On the other hand, the naturalization of time which succeeded to that view defines temporal relations as exclusive and expansive. While the pagan was always already marked for salvation, the savage is not yet ready for civilization. Graphically, as Figure 1.2 in page 27 describes, this worldview can be constructed as a system of coordinates emanating from a center, the Western metropolis, in which given societies of all times and places may be plotted in terms of relative distance from the present. The savage lives in another time. His society is uncivilized and underdeveloped. Fabian's text gives us theoretical instruments to analyze the relationship between the West and the rest. Let's follow Fabian's argument at the end of page 29. The author proposes to transpose from physics to politics one of the most ancient rules, which states that it is impossible for two bodies to occupy the same space at the same time. When, in the course of colonial expansion, a Western empire came to literally occupy the space of an autonomous body, like America, for example, several alternatives were conceived to deal with the violation of the rule. The simplest one, if we think of North America, Argentina, and Chile, was, of course, to move or remove the other body. Most often, like in the case of most of South America, the preferred strategy has been simply to manipulate the other variable, that is, time. With the help of various devices of distancing, one assigns to the conquered population a different time. This example leads up to the crucial point of Fabian's argument. Fabian considers that all these distancing devices produce a global result. He calls it the denial of coevalness. A persistent and systematic tendency to place the others in a time different from the present of the observer. Related concepts are synchronous, simultaneous, and contemporary. Fabian concludes the chapter with the following statement. It takes imagination and courage to picture what would happen to the West if its temporal fortress were suddenly invaded by the time of the other.